Hi, everyone. This is the Sociology of Media Voices series, and you're with Ricky Spencer. And this is part two of our incredible interview with Aunty Barbara Nicholson and Simon Lockhurst. And we're talking about the use of the power of word through the process of writing for those who are incarcerated from our First Nations communities, and how that process happens to change people's lives. Now, just before we finished our first part, Aunty Barbie, you were saying about, the process of putting things together. And just before we came on, I was saying to Simon, what having somebody to put something together in a paper format change it, something happens. And I was saying to Simon, the person who perhaps was always seen as a prisoner or a criminal, the stigma of that, to all of a sudden shifting it to say, you are now an accomplished writer. You are a poet. You are somebody who has a story to tell. How does that shift happen? What shift do you see, Aunty Barb, with the people that you work with in that space?
It's immeasurable. Even, some of them progress in various ways. Some of them we don't witness a progression, even with the ones that we do see on a more regular basis. We don't always witness their progression, but it changes them. You have this, there seems to be something intrinsic but perhaps intangible, something that you can't quite put your finger on, but it's there, that you have made a difference, that what we are doing there makes a difference. There's probably numerous examples. I had one lad, for example, a couple of years back in the group, and it's sometimes really hard to get the in a group, to get them working, to get them writing. It's like impacted molars and extraction come to mind. But this lad was just doodling, and I went and sat with him, as I do, and tried to draw him out to find out what he was thinking, how his thought processes about that project, what we were doing there that day, what that was about. And he wasn't able to articulate in words, but he was clearly emotional. And next thing, he just had a total emotional meltdown. He sobbed and sobbed and sobbed his heart out. And I held that lad for over 40 minutes while he cried and cried and cried and cried. And then he started to tell me what had happened. It was his first time in prison. From the time he'd been arrested, he never let his family know that he'd been arrested. He was too shamed up. And shamed up to such an extent that he couldn't bear the thought of letting them down by letting them know he was in prison or in trouble with the law.
So when people write, when you're working with somebody so closely and they're going through that process, you see the vulnerabilities in the person.
Yeah.
How do you shape something like that when you're in a situation where the person's obviously they're incarcerated, so you can't sort of access how you would normally, perhaps outside a space, because you're limited by what you can do with the person.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. It's really, really, really hard. But that lad, I'll finish with that. Finish that little bit of the story. That lad actually poured his heart out. He didn't write anything. That was in the morning session. He came back in the afternoon session, And he's a big fellow, tall and quite a sturdy fellow. And he was a bit worried. He'd been worried that some of the other fellows might have thought that he was a bit of a sook or some such thing for, going down that path. And I said, no, don't worry about it. Everyone's been there. They've all been on that journey. Everyone knows they've got your back. But I think he was worried about it. So when he come back in the afternoon, he sat next to me in the afternoon class, and he sat right up close to me, and he said, "They didn't make me big for no reason, Aunt." He said, "I'm here to protect you." So he'd had that bit of a notion that there might have been some fallout from his, with the other lads, from his emotional outburst. But so that was one of them. But on another occasion, in a different class, another lad was sitting at a table, a big round table with 10 lads sitting at it. And I'm working with them, and they're working very well. But one of them looked up at me and he said, "Why do you bother with us, Aunt? We're just a bunch of crims." And I looked, and I was able to say to him, and I totally believe this, and I'm sure that all of the tutors who've ever come with me, and I'm sure Simon will agree, that when you walk in those prison gates and we get into this big cultural centre, it's like a big basketball court space, and with beautiful artwork, floor to ceiling, everywhere, even on the tables and chairs. And we get in there, and the lads come in to join us for the classes, and we've got several big round tables, and each of the tutors will take a table each. And you sit down with those lads, you don't see criminals. We see the humanity. Or you see the whole history of colonisation writ large on every single face. You see that story. All those stories are there, every single one of those stories that we all know as Aboriginal people of this land, colonised people. We all know those stories, and we see them writ large. Every face has got that story written on it. And you see that pain, and you see that suffering, you see everything there, and you see their humanity. That's what you see when you're there. And I think the gift we have of being able to see that is transformative for them. We can use that gift to transform those lads in whatever way. Now, whatever way that is, sometimes you're not going to know how it might affect them. But what we do know is, like every lesson in life, you mightn't take it on board at the moment, but you've got it there, and it comes up when you really need it, and you will use it. Or, you will develop on that at a later time in your life, like one lad did. One in particular that we know of, and that was Maddie Merritt. Hey, Simon. And what a story he is. When I first met Maddie Merritt, it was when we were doing, I think, volume 3, and we had 3 or 4, and we had him for a number of years. When I first met that lad, because we never ever asked what offences they've been convicted from. You don't go there. That's we just don't go there. We keep that distance, professional distance. But one of the things I do ask is, it helps to give us a handle on how we progress with that particular person, how much time they've got left. We ask them that. You got much time left? Oh yeah. Okay. So I asked Maddie that, and he had a long sentence. And I said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "And what do you think you might do when you're finished your sentence and you're out in the wide world again?" "Oh, I'll just do another crime and come back." And well, why would you do that? 3 meals a day, bed at night, don't have any bills, don't have to worry about anything. As long as I behave myself, I'm all right. It's not bad. I thought, oh dear. It was really hard to hear him be so institutionalised, right? Anyway, over the years, Maddie came to every class that we had over the next few years, I think 4 years. And on the last year series, due to be released, but in March, I think he was due to be released. But what Maddie had done aside from our program, what he'd done, the jail offers, Riverina TAFE College has a mini campus on site at the jail where they offer a limited number of courses. And Maddie had joined one of them and done that course, and he'd done so well at it, he'd got nominated for and won Riverina TAFE College Student of the Year. There was a big awards night in Wagga Wagga, and the prison officers escorted him down, got him all dressed up and took him down for the awards ceremony. He did that, and he was asked to make a speech, and we were reliably informed that what he'd been able to say there in his acceptance speech was that he'd owed a lot of his confidence to do the course to having done our creative writing classes. So, that's a very, very clear and positive and physical example of what can happen. It's not going to happen with every lad, but it can happen. So, yeah. I think that's... He's one of and we all love Maddie for it, and our latest information is that he's doing very well. So, we get sketchy bits of information. Someone has got to know who Maddie is, and we have to meet that someone, and they can convey the bush telegraph.
Yeah. But, I was going to ask you too, what I'm hearing is it seems to be like capturing the footprints of people's lives. And I feel as though this process of collaboration, although it's really from the person-centered storytelling, it gives people a sense of continuity to their experience.
I think that's right. Look, one of the things, when I've done the education programs in the prison with the lads, if I go back to Goulburn prison in those days when I was doing that, and I was going up 3 days a week from Wollongong to Goulburn, 3 days a week to be there. And one of the things that happens is that you get, the inmates are always suspicious of anyone new coming in. They're very suspicious, they're very much on guard, and there's a total lack of trust with anyone, because anyone who comes into the prison in an inmate's eye is an authority of some sort, right? So, and it took me, probably going into the prisons like that, doing those education programs, it probably took me in Goulburn Jail probably 3 or 4 months of going 3 days a week to build up a trust with them. And in that first period, they're very reserved and withhold a lot. But once you build up trust and they see that you are the real deal, that you're not some fly-by-night do-gooder, then they'll open up to you. And I know that is exactly how it works. And I think, the difficulty we had getting inmates to attend and write for the very first volume was a lot because of that. Apart from the fact that they all believe they can't write. So, But like I say, we've got 10 books that say they can. Can I just show you this? That
Please do.
Simon made this poster.
Oh, wow.
So I'll just block my face out so you can see it. It's got all the 10 books on it.
Higher on.
And there's a picture down the bottom there that he dug out of some archive from, 200 years ago. And
Just lift it up a bit higher. Yeah, that's it.
There you are, Auntie. I can see. Oh,
yeah.
very, very high tech.
Yeah, I know. I saw that there, and we took the posters down to show the lads last week, and I was saying to him, "Look, there I am when we first started this. Now look what you've done to me." But,
That's incredible. That's an absolute accomplishment.
You might be able to send Ricky a thing, yeah.
I'll be very proud. I'll be posted behind me, my darling. So whenever I have to remind me of our beautiful friendship and the importance of care. And I think that's the message I'm getting. I want to ask you both, is there any, when in this type of workspace, is there anything that you feel that the people you work with will not write about in terms of love or relationship? Is there some things that you think are too difficult to write in the space?
They write about all of that. They write about family, love. They're not allowed to write about. We ask them not to write anything that is that is likely to incite violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that one into it a couple of years back in the NAIDOC week where we had that Because of Her We Can theme for NAIDOC week.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes, and I started pushing them to think about to not write about things that might be read as violent or incite violence. Certainly we can't have them talking about crimes that we don't want them talking about the crimes they've committed, not at all. Or anything, too pornographic. We don't want,
yes.
So there's a few limitations,
right.
but not too many. Consistently they write about love of family, love of spouse, children, overwhelmingly children, and so often their life, it's like life writing really, and they talk about growing up with Nan. That comes up so often, growing up with Nan. What would they be frightened of? I don't know. What do you think? What would they not write about, Simon?
It's an interesting space that they're in because it's away from their, I guess, sort of normal life in terms of some of the things that might affect them aren't close to them, like if they're having domestic issues or if there's substance abuse issues, those aren't around in that environment. They're also in a totally, pretty much totally, except for a few prison guards and transient prisoners, a totally male environment. But it's amazing how sensitive some of the writing is, and I'm sort of constantly surprised at how vulnerable people can make themselves when they do this kind of writing. And they're talking about some very intimate things, to do with, unfortunately, it's a repeated sort of pattern of so many have had the same story of being removed as children or going to live with relatives and then moving in and out of the criminal justice system. And there's quite a poignancy to this acknowledgement within themselves that they're part of this, and so often it's a determination they're not going to come back. And even though there's a probability that for some of them at least they will. So I mean, I don't know what they don't write about it because they don't write about it. But I've been really surprised at the level of sensitivity and depth that people do write about.
On that issue of sensitivity, what about exploration of their own sexuality? Is that something that's still taboo for men to write about?
We don't put a taboo on it. clearly there's a number of gender diverse people in prison. I mean, years and years ago with the Watch Committee, we had a big thing going where we were trying to get, because the issue of transgender people in men's prisons, you know, and the authorities say, no, it's whatever's on the birth certificate, that's where you go. So I don't know where that stands today, but there's a number of transgender and other gendered people in prison. We've had quite a number of them through our books, and some of them were quite overt about it and quite open and wrote copiously about their life as a trans, you know. So I think from the inmate's point of view, it's not too much of an issue. I guess it does depend on the inmate and their own particular personality, you know, whether if they're a bit shy and retiring, well, that might stop them from, you know, being public about it, but others don't. You know, others are all right, you know, and they seem to be pretty okay about it from what I've seen. Have you seen anything different in your...
Well, I was going to say, I don't know, I think there's almost a protectiveness there for some of the trans prisoners in terms of being under the umbrella of Aboriginal culture. They're seen as brothers or sisters and they're protected within that. And I mean, I can't talk to, you know, what happens in a cell late at night or anything like that. I can certainly see that the people that we worked with in those situations seem to be accorded the same respect from the fellow inmates as any other prisoners.
Yeah, and I haven't, mind you, everyone would be on their best guard while we're there anyway, because no one wants a witness. I'm talking in terms of prison staff, but I've never witnessed any real problem from prison staff towards the trans, not at all. So, and we've made a lot of visits over 11 years. So,
you talk recidivism, there's the real recidivist. She's been in jail 20 times in the last 11 years, haven't you?
Yeah, 22 times, yeah. I'm a recidivist.
Yeah, it sounds like both of you are. I was going to ask, is there a difference between the way gender, like person's gender, how they write or express themselves?
I don't think so. I don't think that really surfaces.
Well, I remember one woman that I was working with there, and her story was, you know, it was growing up with a nan and pop and going fishing, and it was a change in her sexuality or a gender rather, sorry, at one point. But in terms of her style or insight that I could discern, I didn't notice that there was a great difference. It was a story about what happened in her life. Similar tones.
I really don't hear of any criticism from one to the other about one to the other. Yeah.
Wonderful. As we're now heading towards the we've got a few minutes left, so I want to now take it to the point of what can we do as a community, like, to support this wonderful, incredible project? What about people who are listening to us, whether it be students, academics, community workers? Can they purchase any of these incredible works?
I'm going to pass it to Simon. Yes, I can purchase the books, but I'll let him explain that.
Okay, beautiful.
Easiest way to find us is to go to Facebook and just search for Dreaming Inside. You'll find our page there. That will then take you a link to the South Coast Writers Centre where you can buy books. Or if you just want to get in touch with us and ask if there's anything you can do, you can certainly send us a message from that Facebook page.
That's incredible. And what everyone who's listening, we have embedded those links in this podcast, so you'll be able to click on that and straight away take to the link. And I do encourage everyone. Now, as a teacher, I would encourage all teachers to purchase 10 volumes and have your students work through them in any curriculum area. It is, as you know, a curriculum priority area, and it is something from real lived experiences. Now I'm going to ask you both an important question. Where does this go? I'll start with you, Auntie. Where can you see this development of writing going?
Dear God, Ricky, you know, we did volume 1. It was never going to be a book, but then it became a book, and I didn't know it was going to go anywhere. And now we're working on volume 11. We've done all the workshops for volume 11, so now we've got that process to go through to get that one. Where is it going? I have absolutely no idea. I think it's got its own legs, its own organic self. One of the great things for me is that the inmate writers have taken ownership of this books, and I think they're not going to let it go. So they didn't let it go in 2020 when we didn't have any visits, but any workshops, but they still produced enough material for a book. Future directions, I don't know.
Well, we've got Dilwini. That's exciting. So we obtained some funding this year from Create New South Wales to take the project to a women's jail, Dilwini at Windsor.
Yeah,
so we'll be going in there next week, and Corrective Services have flagged with us the potential of doing another pilot project as well. Aunt is really clear that this project has always been and will always remain grassroots in every level and not part of the bureaucracy. So whatever changes come, whatever growth happens, will always be seen within that sort of framework. So yeah, we'll look at what other things we can do, but where that's going to take us, yeah, we're not sure yet, are we?
Yeah, we have a group, an advisory group, an all Aboriginal advisory group, who we have actually, at our last meeting, we agreed that we should have something like a charter or a mission statement, motherhood statement about what we will and won't have. And that requirement is totally embedded there, the self-determined right to keep this as a grassroots project. So we get it embedded in our motherhood statement, you know, so that's real. It works, and the reason is it works because it is a grassroots project. I've had lads say to me in the prison when they first come to our project, and they've said, this isn't the jail's business, is it? The jail's not going to get any money out of this, is it? Is the prison's going to get any money out of it? Is Corrective Services going to get any? Have they got any? You know, they want to know all of that. That it isn't a bureaucracy behind it. They want, if it's a grassroots thing, they're part of it. But if it, they just would not be there if it wasn't. We had a very scholarly evaluation done on the whole project, process and outcome evaluation done a few years back, and that was one of the key findings of that evaluation was precisely that those notions were explored by the researchers, and that at every turn, overwhelmingly, it works because it's a grassroots project. Yeah. So to get to the future, another thing that evaluation found was that, like, I've got passion and drive to, and that's why it's come as one of the reasons why, not the only one, but one of a main reason why it's come as far as it has. And I think one of the other findings with that evaluation was that not everyone's got that drive and passion. And when I hang up my boots, you know, that I don't know when that's going to be. There's no plan to do it, but there's not aunty vibes about.
No,
You know?
and we've got the one. We love it. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with Aunty Barbara Nicholson and Simon Lockhurst. It's incredible. Thank you. We hope to have you both again because there is so much more we can talk about in so little time. So everyone, please, can I encourage everyone to purchase your copies, have them for your schools, your libraries. Let's support these very important grassroots voices, the voices of our people, the voices of what colonialism has done to a beautiful race of beautiful people who are just being their authentic selves. Thank you so much for listening, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Ricky. Thank you,
Thank
Bad.
you.
Bye. Bye.